think it's time to say, let the church say amen.
Amen.
My wife and I are delighted to be here. She's back there somewhere. If she'll raise her hand, I'll feel better. There she is. All right. We've been married 49 years. Where I go, she goes, and where she goes, I go, and we're both here for you. To Pastor Cole, to all the clergy who are gathered, and political leaders, oh, how I wish Sherrod Brown was still in the U.S. To this marvelous musical ensemble. We ought to stop. Amen. Don't count this against my time. This is a letter I was given to read. But I don't mind doing it. I'm delighted to join with those gathered in Cleveland today in wishing a very happy 90th birthday to Edwina Moss and the Reverend Dr. Otis Moss, Jr. For more than 30 years, I have been blessed to call Reverend and Mrs. Moss friends. Through their dedication to their church and community, their partnership of 58 years in counting, and their tireless commitment to moving our country closer to the ideals of equality and justice for everyone, they have set an example that we would all do well to follow. I will always be grateful for Reverend Moss's wisdom and guidance in good times and hard, and that I had the privilege of worshiping at a service he led. He has made a positive difference for countless people by inspiring his congregants to be good citizens and good neighbors, tending to their spiritual needs and fostering an atmosphere of compassion and fellowship. Reverend and Mrs. Moss, I hope you have a wonderful, well-deserved celebration today, and many, many more to come. Signed, William Jefferson Bill Clinton. Now I will claim my Baptist 4 minutes. I have made a conscious decision not to focus my reflection tonight on Reverend Dr. Otis Moss. It is not that I have nothing to say about him. Indeed, there is much that I could say and probably would have said if my colleagues on this evening's program had not already reflected on the life and legacy of this giant among us. I could have said that we met for the first time in 1980 on the South Lawn of the White House, where both of us had been chosen to represent the Progressive National Baptist Convention when President Jimmy Carter hosted Pope John Paul II at a national gathering of clergy. I could have said that when my family and I arrived in Cleveland in 1987, Otis Moss Jr. preached at my installation service, using as his text 1 John 3 verse 2. It says, "Dear friends, now we are children of God, and what we will be has not yet been made known. But we know that when Christ appears, we shall be like him, for we shall see him as he is." I could have said, but will not, that in June of 1987, we both returned to Washington together to lobby with members of the United States Senate Judiciary Committee in opposition to Robert Bork's nomination to the U.S. Supreme Court. We went to the office of Senator Dennis DeConcini of Arizona. It was during that meeting in 1987 that I first heard the story, the now famous story, of how Dr. Moss's father was denied the right to vote in Georgia, 3 failed attempts at 3 separate locations. Dennis DeConcini voted against Robert Bork. I think in large part because Otis Moss had convinced him that Bork was a threat to voting rights for African Americans. I could have said, but will not say, that when I ran for a seat in the Congress in 1998, that Otis Moss was my campaign manager. I could have said, but will not, that he invited me to preach the ordination sermon when his own son, Otis III, and several other clergy here at Olivet were being ordained to the gospel ministry. I could have said that I nominated him for membership in Sigma Pi Phi, also known as the Bolet, and that he recommended me to preach in the chapel at Howard University. I could have said that when Dr. Joanna Colvin was being voted upon to become the next pastor of Olivet Institutional Baptist Church, Dr. Moss asked me to preside at that election and announce the results of the vote. I could have said all of this and more. However, I'm not going to do that.